Where are you? In the dark. In my kingdom.
But I haven't seen any indication that these Native American groups, which we are claiming relationships with, are really the descendants of the first people in the Americas.
Why hasn't the corporate media reported on this? Why hasn't the IHS, why haven't they taken some leadership in getting ahead of this problem that seems to be so serious within the Native American population? What is your take?
Well, let's address the corporate media first. Corporate media spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year advertising in our TV stations and mainline media. So when it comes to asking corporate or regular mainstream media to report on these issues, nobody wants to touch it, because if they do, they might be cutting off at the knees the sacrosanct funding from the pharmaceutical companies that pay for the advertising, whether it be TV or newspapers or online.
And a lot of black people, they really not here for this whole Native American thing. They like, listen, we've been black, whatever that means, for the longest time, and here you come with your theories.
Did you know that it's scientifically proven that Native Americans come from Siberia? Since the 18th century, ethnographers and archaeologists have been arguing that there are strong cultural and ethnic similarities between Native Americans and the people of Siberia. So what are those similarities? Well, first of all, appearance and clothes. Apparently, Siberians and Native Americans even look alike. Distinctive cheekbones, an upright posture, and dusky skin.
Because white people stole the Indians' land hundreds of years ago, the government signed treaties. And that's why Washington sends billions of dollars to Indian tribes every year.
Everybody thinks the government owes them something.
It's odd in that no group has been more helped by government than the American Indians, and no group does worse.
Maybe it's the government.
Ben Chavis is a member of a tribe that doesn't get special government help. And yet,
the area where you live looks different from Indian reservations.
There's mansions. They look like English manors. I can take you to one neighborhood where my people are from and show you nicer homes than the whole Sioux reservation.
Ancient Native Americans may have had Middle Eastern origins, and thus rights equal to those of European immigrants. Powell wrote, "Whether we desire it or not, the ancient inhabitants of this country must be lost, and we may comfort ourselves in the reflection that they are not destroyed, but are gradually absorbed."
Today, because of the World Wide Web, there are numerous pictures of black Native Americans. These Native Americans were black, and they were recorded by many great painters in the 18th, 17th, and 19th centuries.
And quite frankly, just like they have over generations, the Native Americans have been shoved aside, and no one's focusing on this story, and they're the forgotten people.
Roger Williams, founder of the First Baptist Church in America, in the mid-1600s, believed that indigenous people were not only fellow seekers, but that, quote, "the Indians were probably of Jewish descent of the lost tribes of Israel."
They were responsible for creating that artifact. They were responsible for creating the mounds and for introducing various cultural aspects into the Americas.
It's almost as if all these groups that are saying that we are just a part of a history of people that they can already say they understand and, you know, are considered to even be inferior to them, to others even, are who these people who are subjected to the idea of what American Indian is, because we never really had a chance to really sign treaties in a way where we meet each other as human beings. It was either sign a treaty or die. So, and they had the nerve to call it a treaty even at that point, when there are things like trust tribes that do exist. So, yeah, it's almost as if there's a whole group of people, fucking black, Jews, white people, anyone who hates Jews, anyone who hates black people, and all of that stuff combined, are willing to say that these people who even sit outside of their ideas and their beliefs, being that they have no answers to why indigenous people exist over here and have existed over here for hundreds of thousands of years. Well, we just don't fit into their beliefs overall, but it's almost as if they're perfectly fine with knowing that we are something that they can say they can easily understand. And then what do they do with that information? It's all resources. Resources and political assassinations of any kind. Cultural, too. They think that someone else is responsible for a monoculture of some kind that would have created, quote-unquote, American Indian culture by their federal standard.
I used to see all those faces scratching and shoving and biting. And then the mist would clear, and somehow all those faces would be me. All me and all nothing.
So we isolated ourselves in this small group of 60 or 70 people, and we didn't have contact with our families. We were isolated into a circumstance where we could then focus on our change, and there was a continual emphasis on the urgency that we make our changeover quickly because we wanted to be ready when they came.